Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be with you today. Boy, there's a vibe in here. I think we created something pretty special last week, didn't we? As we moved through that sacred ground peace experience. If you weren't there for that, you still get to enjoy it because you can feel the love that was just really bubbled up here in this beautiful sanctuary that the Baha'i is so generously leasing to us on Sunday mornings. So my name is Reverend Dr. Alice Reid, and I'm the spiritual director here, and I'm really happy to be with you. And boy, I had a busy, busy week. I don't know, how about you? Anybody else had a busy week? Know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I can tell summer's in full swing, right? We're here officially into the summer season, and there's lots to do before my sabbatical that starts in 70 days. But who's counting? Well, apparently my mind is. My mind is counting, and it's the mind that keeps the calendar, but it's the heart that doesn't even, fathom what numbers and calendars are. It really doesn't care how many days there are to anything. It simply is in that present moment. And in fact, in doing all this busyness and working, there's just so many things to take care of in the daily, day-to-day. And in doing all that, I found it rather difficult to craft a talk today. I was really struggling. I was really stuck in my sort of left brain, figure it out, problem-solving mind. And I sat down to pull the strings that I've been tugging on all week together for a talk, and it was like nothing. I was like, hey, it's getting close. I need some inspiration here. I looked at the weekly talk outline that was given by our parent organization, and it just left me flat and uninspired. And it wasn't until I surrendered, let go, went to bed, said, okay, I'm just going to have to trust that it'll come, that I began to get a little bit of inspiration. And of course, when I did get that inspiration, when I did get the download of what it is I am to share with you today, of course, all the strings that I had been tugging on all week fit perfectly into it. And for me, that is my experience of how love works. Love works within me when I can surrender to it. It isn't something I can, I'm really clever. I don't know if you've noticed that about me. I was helping Mary with something in the office, and I said, I don't know how it works, I just figure it out. She says, yeah, that's your superpower. And it often is my superpower to figure things out. But in that space when I am only inhabiting my mind, something's missing. Like I don't feel complete anymore, because I have been working with this philosophy for enough time that I have learned that there's a beautiful integration that happens when we incorporate both our mind and our heart into what we do. It feels different. Things happen with a grace and an ease and a flow that isn't always there when I'm super efforting and trying to figure things out. Yeah, it was like the harder I tried to figure out this talk, the less I was getting. And what I think was happening is that we opened up some real tenderness last Sunday in our practice, and my tenderness saw my conquer the world mind show up, and it was like, okay, we'll wait over here for a while until she comes back to center. And come back to center I did. And so I really have, honestly, this talk is really about that whole process, that process of integrating our mind and our heart. We have this philosophy. The mind is an amazing thing. Do not disconnect from your mind. You need your mind to especially, this philosophy is based on a book written by Ernest Holmes, and the name of that book is Science of Mind. So clearly, we're using our mind in practicing these principles and this philosophy in our life. But it's not just about the mind, and I know that several of my colleagues and over the years, the book's coming up on its 100th year anniversary of the first edition, and over the years, colleagues and people in this philosophy often say science of mind and heart. Science of mind and heart. Because as we have practiced this philosophy, as we continue to play out how this philosophy shows up in our lives and in the world, we've begun to understand that it's not just about our thinking. It's about our feeling. It's about our heart. It's about the things that we experience, what we call conditions or effects. Like, all of it has to work together. In order for us to fulfill the principle of oneness and wholeness, it's about heart and mind, God and humanity, love and law. We begin to weave those things together. We begin to understand that our thoughts alone, while very effective, are not enough. It's only part of the equation. It's only part of the picture. And I don't know about you, but sometimes my heart feels like it needs protecting, right? I'm walking through the world, and there's things going on and stuff that upsets me or breaks my heart, and there's just this protectiveness where I want to like protect my heart. What's that thing that Brene Brown says? Strong back, soft heart. Strong back, soft heart. And that takes a little bit of consciousness to have a strong back and a soft heart in a world that can be challenging. And our mind does its job. It is important for us to be able to think through things, to move through complex situations, to problem solve. Like, we would not survive as a species if we didn't have our mind, right? It's the very thing that tells us when we have to run from the saber-toothed tiger, when there are no longer saber-toothed tigers chasing us. But in this world we're living in, sometimes the issues of the day can feel like that. And we can feel like we need to be protective of our heart. We can feel like we need to kind of pull in. And it's an interesting dynamic that when we begin to think that we want to experience and to give and to be in that flow with love, that the very, and so we might want to pull more love or give more love, the very thing where that we want to protect, when we protect it, when we build walls around our love, it actually it's antithetical, isn't it? Like, I'm protecting my love, but then I don't experience it fully, right? I'm protecting myself, but how can I fully give love the reins that it needs to actually lead me forward? And so we have this dynamic of mind and heart that we are always working with. Ernest Holmes, in his beautiful treatise, the book that we consider our text, The Science of Mind, warns us as he writes, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. Yeah, I saw some of your lips moving. I think you know that phrase. Yeah, Holmes is reminding us that everything is love, and yet all is principle, or what we call law. Like, it's all love and it's all law. And he reminds us that love is the divine givingness of spirit, and law is the way spirit works through us. And love is spontaneous, and the law is impersonal. It's principle. It's like any other principle that we know, any scientific principle. It just reacts to stimulus in a similar way over and over again. And so he says so famously, and I expect most of you to know this one, and probably know where I'm going, some of you, that love points the way, and the law makes the way possible. And so he uses this term of dual unity. He's not talking about a duality, a love versus the law. He's not talking about two things that are opposed to each other or opposite from each other. He's talking about this dual experience, this dual unity. And I love that idea that both the love and the law work hand in hand. We need both. And we need to learn to really integrate them and work with them together. And the very thing that integrates them can feel elusive or intangible, but it's the God particle. It's Christ consciousness. And when I use the term Christ, I'm not using somebody's last name. I'm using that power and that presence that moves through us, that thing that makes the grass grow, that thing that brings thought and form together. It bridges it all. And we are the expressions of that. Like God could not experience itself in the world without each one of us. And I know I have said that many times before to you, but it bears repeating that this idea of causation that we actually co-create with needs us to experience itself. That God can't experience itself until we give it. And actually, you can be totally unaware, asleep at the wheel, unconscious, walking through life, and God is still experiencing itself. Like it matters not whether you're aware of it or not. But boy, when you're aware of it, right? You know what I'm talking about? When you're aware of that alignment with spirit and you're walking out life and you can feel that you are actually in alignment with something that is all of who you are and even greater than you are, boy, that is some powerful stuff. That is some powerful stuff. Absolutely. We need both the head and the heart. And by the way, that's the name of a really rockin' band I'm going to see in July called The Head and the Heart. They have beautiful music, and clearly this group that is creative is creating from both the head and the heart. They get it. And so we can't abandon the mind and we can't abandon the heart if we really want to live a life that feels like a fulfillment of our wholeness. And I am reminded of one of my very favorite Bible passages. I always have to look up the number because I don't have all that. I remember back in Bible study when I was a child, there was some sort of musical rhythm thing that you could remember all the names of the books of the Bible, but I always have to look it up. So it's in Mark 12:30. And it is my favorite quote. Love the Lord God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. Now, a fun fact about that quote that I really love, and I realized this when I went to Jerusalem back in 2016, that Mark is quoting Jesus of Nazareth, but Jesus of Nazareth is actually doing a little tiny riff on something that's found in the Torah. So this bit of wisdom is really ancient. It comes from the Deuteronomy. Oh, I'm not getting that right. If those of you know the Bibles, know the book I'm talking about. It comes from the Old Testament. It's in the Torah. And it's actually written on a little tiny piece of scroll. If you if you are Jewish or you know people who are Jewish and they have this little thing on their door post, it's called a mezuzah. And inside of it is a little scroll. And on it is incorporated in that is that very same commandment, if you will, or invitation, as I will share with my fellow rebels here. It's really an invitation. And on that little scroll, it's written, it's so slightly different, but it says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." And at first that might feel a little authoritarian. And if I know anything about my fellow religious scientists, the people practicing this teaching, we come here because nobody tells us what to do or how to think. and so that's from a metaphysical point of view, it's an invitation and it's a reminder. And if you don't know, the word Lord translates to law or principle. And so here we are being invited into this divine principle of loving with all that we are, with every fiber, with our mind, with our heart, with our soul, with our strength. I like to think of that as our action. We're invited to love in all ways, in every way we can. And in this instruction is the fulfillment of our wholeness. It is the fulfillment of who we are as human beings, expressing God, whether we're aware of it or not. To love life, if you will, with all of ourselves. To give all of ourselves through love and through the thought, through heart and soul and mind. If we try to just use our thoughts by themselves, kind of put the feelings in our hip pocket, well, we've cut ourselves off from something really powerful. Now, I get it. Sometimes life is painful. Sometimes I gotta put things in my back pocket. Sometimes I've got to set them aside. But when we are really ready to embrace this philosophy with all of our mind and all of our heart and all of our strength and all of our soul, when we're really ready to live this philosophy out, it takes all of it. It all works together. This kind of whole being love is the bridge between principle and conditions through cause and effect. That is the bridge that we use when we are working with this amazing philosophy that teaches us that our thoughts are things and that they're co-creative and that we're working with a creative process that is always flowing through life, and then when we're conscious with it, life unfolds in beautiful and powerful and wonderful ways that open us and grow us and give us so much grace. I think I'd like to think of this as what we really mean by embodiment. Embodiment. When we go the whole way through the creative process, when we bring our mind along with our heart and our feelings and our body temple and our actions all into alignment. And it does start with thought, but it's just the beginning. And love is what really gives it that rocket fuel to open up our lives in ways that are powerful and grace-filled. That's the word I want to use, grace-filled. That if we want to have that experience of being in the zone, in the flow, being one with everything, that it requires integration. It requires embracing. It requires embracing that Christ consciousness that lives within us. It requires embracing the love that wants to express by us, as us, and through us. And this month, as we've explored love as a principle, and I think we've had an interesting month, haven't we? We had a Baha'i soul journey. We had the Sacred Ground event last week, and in the first week in June, I talked about love being so intrinsic to who we are that when we're not aware of it, it just simply waits. It's patient. It waits for us to become aware of it. And so you didn't miss the boat. Love is still residing in your whole self, just waiting for you to invite it in, waiting for you to begin to use it in this spontaneous, beautiful way, to respond to life with love. And so, as we look at this idea of this bridge where we bring in cause and effect, and we see it as one cycle that is continually moving through us, I want to invite you to keep this question in front of you. Now, it's a very familiar and powerful question. You've heard it before. You'll hear it again. But I think we have to keep asking it in order for us to really have this true experience of integration of mind and heart, of soul, and of our actions. And that question is simply, what would love do? Right? You've heard it before. But it is a question to keep before you when you're in traffic and that guy cuts you off. To keep before you when your plumber hands you a bill and it's twice what he estimated. Yeah, I've had that experience. To keep that before you when your lover ignores you. To keep that before you when your family member, your coworker, your neighbor upsets you. To ask that question, what would love do? To seek direction so that you can integrate your mind and your heart and come to a place of alignment. I guarantee you, you will be guided, guarded, and directed if you continue to come to this place of wanting to respond with love, of wanting to initiate just that question. You don't have to figure out the answer. The mind is going to want to tell you, yeah, okay, we'll figure this out. But that's not what this is about. It's about integration of our thoughts, integration of our feelings, integration of our experience, and allowing love to filter through it in such a way that you know exactly what to do. And even when things don't work out the way you thought they should, you are absolutely grounded in principle. You know where your feet are. You're standing on a firm ground. And your heart is still open. Thank you very much. So let's ride on the coattails of the love that is in this sanctuary today and amongst ourselves, and carry that out. And I'll go ahead and I'll do a prayer. So I invite you to lower your gaze or close your eyes and go within. And feel your feet on the floor and the chair supporting you, beneath you, and wherever you might be listening to this. And know that there is indeed one power, one presence. It's the thing that makes the grass grow. It's the thing that breathes our bodies. It's the very life-giving force that moves through all existence. And we are so close to it. It is the air we breathe. It is the water we swim in. and knowing our oneness with this power that is always inviting us to become more aware of it, to invite it into our life, to invite it into our expression. What I know for each one is that we keep that simple invitation before us. What would love do? What would love do? And I trust that each one, in being humbled by that question, in being open to what is possible, will be guided, guarded, and directed, and things flow from the heart of love. All things that we could imagine and all things that we didn't think of first. For it is the mind and the heart that work together in concert with one another, supporting each other as one of two halves of one whole, a dual unity, a place where we can be truly in oneness as we walk out life. And so I know for each one that we have this elevated experience. Love lifts us up, and we are indeed experiencing oneness as we continue to follow love's lead and allow principle to unfold. What a blessing to remember this powerful, powerful way of being. What a blessing to be that expression of God in form. What a blessing to love in every situation. Not to acquiesce, but to love. And so I know it is with a grateful heart that these words are anchored in that very same law, and it is that very same love that brings them to fruition in each one's life. And I await with a joyous and expectant heart for the beautiful and definite demonstration of love through each one. As we anchor this prayer in that same love and law by saying together, and so it is.